What if your entire world changed in a single afternoon? 1 minute, you're scrolling your phone, sipping coffee, or laughing with a friend. The next, your city's skyline vanishes behind clouds of smoke. The news anchor, pale and panicked, says the words nobody ever thought they'd hear again: World War III has begun. It doesn't matter who started it. Missiles don't ask for context. And by the time you refresh your feed, it's too late. This isn't just another global crisis. This is the end of everything you thought was stable. So how exactly would World War III ruin your life forever? And why are we closer than we think? Let's start with the obvious. The weapons of today are not the weapons of your grandfather's war. World War I was trenches. World War II was tanks and blitzes. But World War III? It's drones, satellites, and cyberattacks so precise they can shut down a country before a single soldier boots up. Entire power grids gone in seconds. Banks frozen. Water contaminated. Planes falling from the sky, not because they were shot down, but because the digital systems that kept them flying were erased in the first wave of attack. Imagine no electricity for weeks. No internet, no ATMs, no running water. Medicine spoiling in dark pharmacies. Supermarkets emptied within hours with no trucks arriving to restock them. Not because people are panicking, but because the supply chain no longer exists. Now take that fear and multiply it by billions. World War III would not be fought on distant battlefields. It would erupt in the very streets you walk every day. Civilians would be both targets and collateral. Major cities, especially those with strategic value, would face the highest threat of missile strikes. Airports, ports, government hubs, even data centers, all vulnerable. And then there's the nuclear threat. Even a limited exchange between two powers would send radioactive clouds drifting across borders. Fallout doesn't need a passport. And neither do the economic aftershocks. If just one nuke detonates, every market on Earth plunges into chaos. Inflation skyrockets. Your currency might become worthless overnight. Your job? Gone. Your savings? Frozen or inflated into dust. And if you think crypto would survive, remember this: no power, no blockchain. Digital wealth depends on physical infrastructure. But here's the part people forget. War doesn't just break systems. It breaks people. Psychologists who studied survivors of past wars found that even decades later, the trauma doesn't fade. PTSD, survivor's guilt, the constant anxiety that another bomb could fall, another siren could wail. Children born into war zones grow up without stability, trust, or a clear sense of home. An entire generation raised in rubble. And war doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care if you're rich or poor, online or offline, prepared or oblivious. Once it starts, you're part of it. Whether you fight, flee, or freeze. So how would World War III ruin your life? It would destroy the version of it that you know. Your memories, your routines, your ambitions all drowned under a wave of fear, confusion, and irreversible change. But here's where things get even darker. The real war may not even be physical. It could start quietly, invisibly. A digital virus planted years in advance. A power outage misattributed to a storm. A social media campaign that turns neighbor against neighbor until society fractures from within. By the time the bombs drop, we might already be at war without even knowing it. And still, history tells us something crucial. No war happens overnight. There are always signs, tensions rising, alliances shifting, warnings ignored. Peace talks failed not because they couldn't work, but because pride got in the way. So if World War III ruins lives, the question isn't just how. The question is, why do we keep walking toward it? Maybe it's our short memory. Maybe it's our trust in leaders who promise strength through force. Or maybe it's the illusion that we're too advanced to make the same mistakes twice. But the truth is, history repeats itself because people repeat themselves. Until we learn to challenge the myths of glory and war, to see diplomacy not as weakness but as survival, we will always be one bad decision away from devastation. You don't have to be a politician to make a difference. You just have to care. Share the truth. Educate yourself. Vote with foresight. Refuse to glorify destruction. Because World War III wouldn't just ruin your life. It would erase entire ways of life. And once it begins, there's no reset button. So what are we going to do about it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you found this video eye-opening, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world, and until next time, stay aware, stay curious, and stay human.